Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Quest for Clarity podcast. I'm your host, Nolan Denaro. Thank you so much for joining me today. We got a crazy episode coming up for you. We got to talk about this whole Signalgate scandal that implicates Mike Waltz and a couple people in the Trump administration, so stay tuned for that. But first, I do want to remind you guys, full episodes of the podcast are available at Spotify, YouTube, and X, and clips from shows will be available on Instagram. So, let's get into the story that occupied the entire news cycle this week, and that is the fact that a Atlantic journalist named Jeffrey Goldberg, a notorious Trump-hating propagandist, was somehow found his way onto a group chat on the app Signal with the highest levels of the federal government, including the National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Vice President J.D. Vance, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, and a couple other members of the foreign policy wing of the Trump administration. So this is the scandal that is occupying the news this week, and it came out when Jeffrey Goldberg released an article in The Atlantic, basically revealing that he somehow got added to this group chat that was made a couple of weeks ago in the build-up to the Trump administration's bombing campaigns in Yemen, just a couple of weeks ago. And he just decided to make an article about it now, and then went on to release screenshots from the group chat that he got while he was in there. So, massive scandal. This is Jeffrey Goldberg we're talking about. So I first get the notification. I think pretty much nothing of it because every day there's attempts to smear Donald Trump from the legacy media, especially Jeffrey Goldberg, who's been called out by name before by Donald Trump, which makes this even worse for people who were involved in this, which we'll get into in just a second, who I think is responsible for this and should be obviously fired. I don't know how he's not fired, but we'll get into that in just a second. So Jeffrey Goldberg releases an article in The Atlantic about how he was added to this group chat and he lays out essentially that they were talking about war plans and times and locations and targets for their bombing campaign in Yemen. So this is, of course, a huge scandal. How does a journalist get into the group chat of the highest levels of the national security people in the United States? Well, it's the dolt of the Trump cabinet, Mike Waltz's fault, as was revealed by the screenshots that Jeffrey Goldberg released. So, Mike Waltz. Let's do a quick background of who Mike Waltz is. He is the National Security Advisor for Donald Trump, the worst member of Donald Trump's cabinet by far. I mean, the antithesis of the America First foreign policy that Donald Trump campaigned on. I mean, we can look at what they're saying in this group chat now that the screenshots have been released by Jeffrey Goldberg, and they are completely contradicting the message that Donald Trump literally ran on in summer of last year, or summer of 2024 or 2023, when he went on podcasts talking about specifically this issue of Yemen, where he says, he's talking about Joe Biden, like, they always love to bomb. Why can't we just negotiate? Why don't we talk it out? They always love to resort to bombs. He's talking about the national security establishment that always resolves everything with endless war. And then we decide to carry out this administration and put people in the cabinet that completely contradict that message, like Mike Waltz. So who is Mike Waltz? Mike Waltz is the former counterterrorism advisor to none other than Dick Cheney, the neocon warmongering vice president of George W. Bush. So that's who we have sitting in the Trump administration cabinet, advising the president on national security matters. So that's very soothing. And Mike Waltz took responsibility for making this group chat when he went on the Ingram Angle, the Laura Ingraham's show on Fox News, just hours after the story broke, and tried to explain his way out of it in a really, really awful way. I mean, probably one of the worst political moments on TV in recent memory. It was really awful. Just an embarrassment for Mike Waltz and for the administration, to be completely honest. He goes on. He goes on about this story, and he starts off by alleging. I'll show you guys clips in just a second from this interview. He starts alleging a conspiracy, and then Laura asks him, "Was this anyone in your staff?" And he's like, "No." And then she's like, "So are you saying that Jeffrey Goldberg did this?" He's like, "That's what we're trying to figure out." And then he switches off to saying he takes responsibility, and then completely gets rid of the responsibility being on him. So it's like, it's my responsibility, but it's also not my fault. I'm going to show you guys a clip real quick. Here's the first clip from this interview, and you'll get my reaction in just a second.
One of the principals who was on that Signal chat, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Advisor Waltz, thank you for joining us tonight. The president expressed complete confidence in you today and his entire cabinet. But how did a Trump-hating editor of The Atlantic end up on your Signal chat?
You know, Laura, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but of all the people out there, somehow this guy who has lied about the president, who has lied to Gold Star families, lied to their attorneys, and gone to Russia hoax, gone to just all kinds of links to lie and smear the president of the United States. And he's the one that somehow gets on somebody's contact and then gets sucked into this group.
So you'll see there, he starts the interview off right away, alleging he seems to be implying that Jeffrey Goldberg was behind some conspiracy to get onto this group chat and infiltrate the conversation between the national security people and the Trump administration. Which, if true, that's a serious scandal that you can't just be throwing out there without any evidence on Fox News on a weeknight at Fox News. Like, this is like, what are you alleging? Like, it makes absolutely no sense to just throw that out there and be like, oh, that's why we got the best guys on it. I mean, it's insane. It's a complete deflection of responsibility for the guy who made the group chat, as revealed in the screenshots that Goldberg released, to be suddenly throwing out the possibility that Jeffrey Goldberg, and then insulting, like, look, I hate Jeffrey Goldberg too. He's a professional propagandist that all he does is smear Donald Trump. But when you make him look good, when you're making him look good and making me question why you're insulting him for no reason right now, that's pretty wild. So I'll show you another clip real quick. Here's another one for you.
Somebody's contact and then gets sucked into this group.
Is someone in your intel team trying to cause trouble here? Because that's the scuttlebutt out there.
Look,
that
we have people. No, look, this is a great group. The president has a great team. This is not first term.
No, your team. I'm not talking about the other principals.
No. These were principals and a couple of staff that were coordinating, as you saw, having a policy discussion as we went forward. And then just in the days before, what was an incredible strike. Not only did we take out people that the Biden team never could, that we took out headquarters, missile caches, and actually one of the leaders of the Houthi organization, we've since taken out several since. And, you know, that's what they don't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about the success here. They don't want to talk about the hostages getting released. They don't want to talk about the Black Sea ceasefire that we just put in place today as the president ends the largest land war in Europe, or the border, or the fact that Panama just kicked China out of the canal, and success after success after success. So they want to focus on this. It's embarrassing, yes. We're going to get to the bottom of it. I just talked to Elon on the way here. We've got the best technical minds looking at how this happened. But I can tell you for 100%, I don't know this guy. I know him by his horrible reputation, and he really is the bottom scum of journalists. And I know him in the sense that he hates the president, but I don't text him. He wasn't on my phone, and we're going to figure out how this happened.
So Laura asks the correct follow-up to this, which is, was it someone in your staff who is involved in this? And he's like, oh, no. Well, you can't say there's an investigation into how this could have happened and then rule out every possibility that she brings up. So he's like, we have the best minds on it. We have Elon's team on it. Was it anyone in your staff? Oh, no. We're just throwing out this idea that it's a random conspiracy. Okay. I think it's more likely that you just clicked the wrong guy and that this guy's number was on your phone, and that you do text Jeffrey Goldberg frequently. I wouldn't be shocked if Mike Waltz is the establishment rat in the Trump cabinet. I mean, just remember back to Trump's first administration. He had endless amounts of people in his own administration working against him. You'll remember the Russiagate hoax, where his own CIA attempted to frame the president for treason and attempted a literal cabinet coup by trying to get the 25th Amendment. As admitted on 60 Minutes, the FBI and the CIA tried to get the 25th Amendment to throw the president out after he fired James Comey because they said he was unstable. So this isn't beyond the realm of possibility that there's someone like Mike Waltz working in the cabinet, working for the establishment on the outside. and trying to sabotage what the Trump team wants to do. That's not beyond possibility. I'm not going to say that it is. Look, you have him. This is an embarrassment. This is the story you come up with. Like, you go on Laura Ingram's show, and she's trying to help you. It seems like this isn't like she's not going to give you a hardball. This isn't like you're going on enemy territory to confront this scandal. You're going on the easiest softball show to confront this scandal and kind of maybe sweep it under the rug a little bit, and you can't even help yourself. This is ridiculous. Okay, one more clip real quick.
How this happened.
So you don't know what staffer is responsible for this right now?
Well, look, a staffer wasn't responsible, and look, I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure everything's coordinated.
But how did the number? I mean, I don't mean to be pedantic here, but how did the number?
Have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name, and then you have somebody else's number there?
I never make those mistakes.
Right? You got somebody else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loser in the group. It looked like someone else. Now whether he did it deliberately or it happened in some other technical mean is something we're trying to figure out.
So now he's talking about how he says he takes responsibility for it. I mean, this is insane. You can't say you take responsibility for it and then take back responsibility and say how. So, okay. In this whole interview, we've had basically 3 different stories that he's kind of bounced off each other to see, kind of waiting to see what sticks with Laura so he can get out of this interview. So is it a conspiracy? We don't know. We have the best minds working on it to see what happened. How did this guy get into the group chat? Was it anyone in your staff? Okay, we can dispel that. He knows for sure it wasn't anyone in his staff. Okay. And then we get into this whole spiel about how they don't want to talk about how successful the strike was. They don't want to talk about the Black Sea ceasefire. They don't want to talk about the hostage release. No, you don't get to cause the biggest scandal of the day. This is the news. You don't get to be the one behind the biggest scandal of the administration so far, and then whine about how no one's talking about this or that that you think is significant. I'm sorry, no. This is the scandal. You can't come on TV to do the cleanup job afterwards and then whine about how no one's talking about this or that. This is the scandal. Sorry. This is what you signed up for by being an idiot. So then we simultaneously have him taking responsibility and then possibly saying it was a conspiracy. How can you genuinely say that you take responsibility for something that may be a conspiracy? So something is wrong here. Something makes no sense. And then we get into the conversation of him trying to this is his last resort, it seems like. I mean, he's tried everything out on Laura, and she's doing the right thing by being like, this makes no sense. And he's like, have you ever had the name that doesn't match the number on your phone? No. No, that's not a big thing. That's not a big problem in America today. It's the name that doesn't match the number. Maybe you typed the number wrong. This is insane. What is going on? Like, this makes no sense. This whole story has bounced from 5 different directions in the first 2 minutes. And we've gone nowhere. We have the best minds on it, don't you worry. See, usually what would happen in one of these scenarios is that you kind of get someone on the staff to be the fall guy for it. Like, you'll have one of these scandals and say, oh, it was this guy. It was Bob in accounting who crunched the numbers wrong. It was his fault. He's fired. Okay, scandal over. Well, he's already said it wasn't anyone on his staff. I don't know if that was pre-planned or if he just came up with that on the fly. But now they can't even use the excuse of it was some random staffer who did something wrong. No, this is his fault, and he says it's his responsibility, while simultaneously saying that it may have been a conspiracy by the deep state or Jeffrey Goldberg himself. And how ridiculous is that, by the way? The idea that Jeffrey Goldberg is hacking into the National Security Advisor's Signal account and replacing his name with someone else's under a different number, and just on the chances that they'll make a group chat about a Yemen bombing strike so that he can get in there and then take screenshots of that group chat and then release it and get some big news out of it. Like, this is insane. This man, like, fire this man right now. This is a PR nightmare. I don't understand how you can be Donald Trump right now and then come out and defend Mike Waltz instantly after this happens. No, this guy's an adult. This guy is an idiot. He should not be anywhere near national security positions at the highest levels of the federal government determining the national security strategies for the U.S. military. Give me a break. This is insanity. And this is the guy who's now bragging about the Yemen bombing strike as if it was some great success, and why isn't anyone talking about that? Okay, maybe because it's not really that big of a deal, and that, like, this isn't really that out of the ordinary. Like, this is what we like to do, is that we like to act like suddenly there's some big switch up now because there's a bombing campaign in Yemen that didn't happen in the Biden administration. Oh wait, it did. This is the exact same bombing campaign for the exact same reason that the Biden administration did in Yemen. That because they were attacking our ships. Yeah, why are they attacking our ships, by the way? Oh, it's because of what Israel's doing to the Palestinians. Got it. Okay. With our bombs and our weapons and our financial aid. Okay. So we casually leave that part out, just conveniently. And then we get to go on national TV and whine about our scandal and act like this is some big success. What, because we blew up a building? Are the Houthis not in power in Yemen anymore? No, they still are. And guess what? They still were after we funded Saudi Arabia's war against the Houthis for a decade, almost. They still are after this random bombing campaign. I wouldn't call that a major success. What did this achieve? We killed a couple terrorists as well as a couple dozen civilians along the way. What did this achieve? Pretty much nothing. What, are they not going to attack our ships now? Yeah, that's what you're going to tell me? That they were so deterred by this massive strike that they're not going to attack? They have no interest in attacking our ships now? Give me a break. And the only person in this group chat who has any real objection to this plan is JD Vance, as you can see from the screenshots. JD Vance is, and this is like, okay, so JD Vance gives his objections to it, saying basically this doesn't really fit our messaging. We should at least wait a month, which implies that this isn't a time-sensitive strike, that we didn't have to do this. We could have waited and seen where we were, is what JD Vance said, where the economy was and where the state of the approval ratings were, is essentially what he's saying, and wait and see what we can do in a month or 2 months. And he also brings up that this isn't really in America's interests, and that this is kind of helping Europe. He says, I believe 3% of our shipping goes through there, and it's mostly European shipping. And he implies that Europeans are freeloading, which, yeah, that's a pretty big issue. Why are we responsible for creating enemies in the Middle East? For enemies in the Middle East, by the way, which dislike us because of our support for our ally Israel, and we're doing it to protect the shipping that's not really mostly ours. We're doing it to protect the shipping of our allies in Europe. Why can't they do that? Okay, so this whole thing, JD Vance is the only one to give any objection to this whole plan in this group chat. And then he kind of caves in the end anyways, which is very disappointing. Also very disappointing is that Tulsi Gabbard never chimes in, really, in these screenshots, giving any objection to this, which is very disappointing, considering Tulsi Gabbard was really one of the best on Middle East policy in her statements she's made over the years. So all of this is just very ridiculous and very disappointing, and Mike Waltz is really the worst of the worst, though, just a complete antithesis of America First. That is essentially the story of Signalgate, the first big scandal of the Trump administration. If there are any updates, we'll be sure to get them to you on the show. Thank you so much for watching today, or listening, however you're getting this podcast. We will see you in the next one. Have a good day.